the world would have you believe, some people that counsel you on worry, that just don't worry. You know? It's okay. So, that somehow there's something you can do inside of yourself. So, does that mean, so the other extreme then is, really don't worry. Okay, do not plan for tomorrow. That's what the Bible says, right? Do not plan, do not think, do not ever strategize, do not even work, okay? Because Jesus will provide, like you have to read the New Testament. Is this what Jesus is saying? Like, don't plan ahead, don't work, don't think like Jesus. See, these first century Christians, they actually did that. The apostles said, wake up! Go and do something, or you're going to starve to death, okay? And then if you get something, share it with your brothers and sisters so you can be useful. Plan, yes. Strategize, yes. Work hard to your bow. It's okay. It's not going to kill you. Just don't obsess over it. Don't make it your God, because when that becomes your God, then you start to lose it. I mean, you want to know about things to worry about? I'm an expert. I am a warrior. Okay? Not a warrior, a worrier. I worry about everything. Now, I've seen it activated itself. What happens to me, it's kind of well, shoot, you can worry about just about anything you want. What if this floor collapses? And how do we know the joists are strong enough to hold us up? And then you go, no, but it didn't fall last week. And we were jumping around. Like, what do you want to worry about? I can give you anything, you can worry about it, right? You don't have daily bread, and so you're thinking, yeah, God's not going to provide today. So you can start worrying about that. Or you have huge amount, a windfall of daily bread, and you go, now it's all going to go only. What am I going to do with this daily bread? It's like a truckload of daily bread. What am I supposed to do with it? Right? Or you get all this stuff and you go, well, what if I lose it? I got all this stuff and now I'm going to lose it. We got to use it the right way. So now I'm stressed, and so now I have anxieties, and so now I have stomach hurts, pains, and oh my goodness! And I have a brother here that I think I must be preaching to. I didn't plan it that way, but it's kind of true, right? Now we worry about because we got it. Before we were worried about because we didn't have it. You buy a brand new car because before you were worried about getting stuck between work and there. Now you got the car, now you're worried about somebody scratching the car. Oh my gosh. You know what I do? As soon as I get something, I scratch it. Then I don't have to worry about it anymore. It's done. Just did that the other week. Joanne knows what it is. I'll tell you later. But you can worry. It's just fears of the future. What if, some people have fear of death. They're terribly fearful of death. And Jesus says, fear not. I've conquered death. I mean, He is the one who has an answer to all of these things. He is the only one that we can turn to. I better check my notes so I can bring some sort of... I read somewhere, fear is vision without optimism. It really is. Fear is not rational. It really is exactly like that. It has no basis of rationality. But to the person that is fearful, it's as rational as you can get. I can give you, I thought a long time ago, I figured out I must have heart problems because I'm a heavy guy. And my arteries must all be plugged up, which is not true. I've had all that checked now. My fear's gone. Now I fear about something else. My liver's not too good. I got a new large liver, so you can find new things to fear about. Listen, here's the thing. One day I started getting chest pains. And not only did I convince myself that I'm having a heart attack, everybody around me knew I was having a heart attack. I drove myself to a doctor, and he wasn't there, but the assistant was there. And she said, well, you described to me what you're having. Well, because I want to describe precisely what I'm having. Because I know what a heart attack feels like. Shooting pain down the thing, chest pressure on my chest. She says, I think you are having a heart attack. Holy moly! Now, the pressure is heavier. The breathing is hard. I'm in real deep trouble. I'm having a heart attack. So she says, I'm calling an ambulance. I said, I think I can drive myself. She says, I'm calling an ambulance. Anyway, she phoned the hospital. She wouldn't let me go. And the hospital said, because they were smarter a little bit. They've seen people like me before. And they said, I think he can drive himself. So I drove myself. They're waiting for me. They hooked me up 4 hours. But within 5 minutes, the surgeon guy, the big guy, he says, Mr. Zapidio, I want to tell you one thing, you're not having a heart attack. This is for sure. Okay, I know that much. But whatever else you're having, you're not having a heart attack. Well, the minute he said that, then everything else went away. I said, yeah, you're right, I'm not having a heart attack. What on earth was going on? Like something happened. That's fear. It is absolutely, like, if you go to somebody and say, don't fear, don't be scared, and they are, like, they're not going to help, right? There's something has to happen. You know, it's just a hard thing about this fear stuff, okay? So, what I want to do, where I'm at is, what I forgot to do, is I want us to read what Jesus said about the not worry. Oh, did you know that, by the way, of all the things that Jesus talked about, this is among the biggest ones. This and money. It could have been so many things. We talked about hell too, but this and money were big things, big subjects for Jesus. Could have picked anywhere, but this one just happened to be in our little Bible study, the Lord's Prayer. This is the little study that we would have done had we been here, but we weren't. So now I'm ahead of you. Doesn't matter. Let's read it together. It says, then Jesus said to his disciples, therefore, it implies something that he said before. I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. Life is more than food, and the body more than clothes. He says, consider this. He says, consider the ravens. Now, I have to think about it for a minute, because another time he talks about a real cute bird. But these ravens are not very cute. They're scavenger kind of animal, okay? They really are. They're the most nuisance animals. Like, you don't want ravens. I don't like ravens. Like, God, why did you even bother making ravens? They just mess my garbage, okay? If I forget to live. But he says, consider those, okay? Kind of nasty animals. They do not sow or reap. They have no storerooms. They have no bank accounts at CIBC, no term deposits. Yet God feeds them. And how much more valuable you are than those birds, than these scavenger birds. He says, your king will take care of you. He says, you want to worry? Like, here's Jesus strategizing, okay? He says, I want to use a little logic. He says, who of you by worrying can add a single hour to his life? I'm sure that if I look that up and translate it properly, it probably says a single second to your life. Because you can't add a hill of beans by worrying to your life. Worry is just the wrong thing to go down. But yet we do. We're in this fallen world. You know what's anticipating to me is the solution. Like, I want to know Jesus, so I hope you're thinking about this already, okay? We're reading this, now we want to get to the solution eventually. But he says this, he's making some important issues. He says, since you cannot do this very little thing, like even increase your life by 1 second by worrying, why do you worry about all kinds of stuff? You just worry people. Like, the problem why this is such a big subject is antidepressants, anti-this, anti-that, it's like it's rampant. Drug companies, psychiatrists, forever. Just keep going and talk to your psychiatrist about your worries. And keep coming back next week. It's like, it's not going to help you. Okay? Jesus is the physician that can take away our worry. You can't help yourself. He says, consider how the lilies. Now, this is even a different example. He says, look at these beautiful lilies. They don't work. They don't spin around, checking the surroundings. Yet I tell you, not even Solomon. This was the greatest, richest king. All of his splendor was dressed like one of those. I mean, just look at them. Even a rose. I mean, you don't wonder. But the lily, it's an amazing thing. Even a rose isn't like a rose is sort of a lot of repeating things. But a lily is different lilies, and they have all different personalities, like different color shapes, and they're just incredible. And he just gives them clothes. That's the costume of the lily. He says, if that is how God clothes the grass of the field, I mean, look at, he says, which is here today and tomorrow it's just thrown into the fire. It's the most insignificant thing in a way. How much more will He clothe you? And I think we get the first clue. Oh, you of little faith. Now the thing is, that is important. It's the object of where we're putting that faith in that's important. It's not, positive thinking about changing our future. It is knowing that God has changed our future, our eternity future, that we can rest in that. Because tomorrow, if it never comes for me, it will be even better, because I will be what the Apostle Paul said, I'll be with the Lord. And he says, well done, good and faithful servant. But he says, I'm not ready to take you because maybe He has something for me to do here. Now my friend, in his deathbed, I know he's going to go. Because he can't drink any water, and they're not giving him intravenous. This is so I don't think he's going to last more than a week. With food, you can last a lot longer. Without food. But without water. And I don't know if that's good or bad, that I know and he knows and his wife knows that he's going to go. But sometimes we're just taken. Ambassador, come home. And that could give us a lot of fear. And yet, if we know the King, we know where we're going, we can just rest in that. It's even better sometimes. So here's sort of the clues here about the answer to this big stress, huge, ugly problem in the world. He says, do not set your heart on what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it. Do not obsess about it. For the pagans would run after all such things, and your Father knows that you need them. Now, as far as I've seen recently, He's not dropped things from the sky. I know people go, you hear these stories about found money. I know there's some TV preachers that talk about that all the time. There's people go to school and then they go, I don't know how I'm going to pay my student loan or whatever, and then they open the check and there is a check, and then they share the testimony of all this found money, unexpected money. And I think God has a hand in all that, but if they were to follow the mail back, it usually goes to the dad. And he's not God, but he's kind of perceived as the earthly father who's paying some bills and sending some money in a kindly way, or another brother in Christ. But God uses other people. So this, he says, do not set your hearts on what you will eat, what you will drink. But here's the key. Here's why it was so important to know about the kingdom and why I've been talking about it. It says, seek first. So you have to know what we're trying to look for. Right? It says, seek His kingdom. And those things will be given to you as well. So the prioritizing of it, right? We go, there's a lot of us, I know me, it was me, right? I'm the biggest hypocrite of them all at this moment. I don't know if that hypocrite is the right word, but like I used to think like this. Or, when I get like to a certain level financially, that's when I'm going to really seek your kingdom. Right? Or, when I get a certain level of money, then I'm going to start really giving. Right? Now, God is a gracious God. And He put up with me. I can figure this out, how loving He is, and how gracious and merciful He is. Because I was the worst of them. But I realize now, it says, no. The problem why it took you so long is because you're seeking the wrong kingdom. It says, seek first His kingdom, and then all these other things will be given to you. It says, do not be afraid. You see, the whole thing about being afraid is that's where the anxieties come from. That's why Jesus spoke about fear not, little flock. Like, you might as well be talking to our little congregation, because we're a little flock. Like, little sheep, little flock of sheep, they can't attack. They're kind of helpless. If you have no shepherd, those little sheep, they don't even know when to feed themselves. They will, actually, they know when to feed themselves. That's about it. Your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom. He's giving you everything. This is the most striking thing. I can't impress it on you anymore, and I wish I could preach it with authority. But I'm coming to this conclusion, and I don't know whether I like it. And we can put a bend and a twist on it, but the answer is right there. He says, look, you can have a truckload of bread and just let it sit there and watch it go moldy. Or you can take your truckload of bread and put it in a freezer and then bring it out every once in a while, and then you have stale bread for dinner. Or you could just find some people that need some bread and feed them. I mean, that's another way of saying, get your possessions and start giving them to the poor, to the needy. That's the medicine here. It's not an antidepressant. Are you sure, Jesus, you don't have some anti-anxiety pills? No. He says your possessions is what's causing you a big problem in North America. Now, I want to ask you, don't you think we suffer more than other countries? Like, even though they should be suffering more. Like, let me tell you, you go to a poor country, like Laos would be the country that you would be associated with. Like, there's every reason for them to be worried. But I bet you they do not take so many antidepressants and anti-anxiety pills as we do. I don't think so. I went to Italy, and Italy is not a third world country. It's a rich country in a sense, comparatively speaking. But when you go to my little hometown, they're very simple people, but they're still rich by those standards. But they, I come from a very poor place, and I remember this little village. And when I was there in 1960 something, we didn't have running water. We had electricity, but no running water. This is how backwards this place was. I don't remember people worrying. I mean, imagine a farmer worrying. Like, you put your seeds in there. Like, we were strong Christians, but the whole thing was we knew something is going to happen and those seeds will grow. Well, there's nothing we can do about it. What's the point of worry? Then they grow. I mean, if you start to worry, if you're a farmer and you behave like we behave in the city, you might as well shoot yourself. Because, look at, you put the seeds in the ground, and now what happens? What if it doesn't rain? And then it rains, and what if the hailstorm comes? And what if the windstorm? And what if the first frost comes too early? And what if... You're going to have no energy to do the harvesting before the stuff comes. It's like we are worrying people. And Jesus says, it's that stuff. It's the stuff you're worrying about that's the problem. He says, wait, you can take that truckload of bread, just like that, mold away. It's not going to be good. Why don't you feed someone? Provide yourself persons in heaven that will not wear out, a treasure in heaven that will not be exhausted, where no thief comes near and no moth will destroy, invest in this kingdom, this invisible kingdom, to make it manifest in the physical world so that nobody can ever take that away. Because this kingdom is an eternal kingdom. Like the plans of God to restore the earth back to His original creation will happen. I got news for you. There's nothing promised that's not happened. That will happen. Some people say, well, it's going to be real soon. Jesus will come back. Some people say, well, it's going to be 1,000 years. I don't know. I don't care. I just know that that kingdom will continue for eternity, and I want to be in it. And I think, to me, any investment that is to do with eternity, and nobody can steal it, nobody can take it, and it's always going to pay dividends, is a good investment. And you know what? I don't have to stay awake at night worrying about my financial planner, whether he's looking after my stuff. I'm not saying, look it, we've got a plan. Remember what I said before? But I'm just saying, my priorities, I know which ones are safe. Because my King looks after my stuff. Especially the stuff that I'm using in His kingdom. And He says, if you have any doubts, just think about it. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also.